One of the greatest villains in pro wrestling history, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who helped put pro wrestling into the international spotlight.
Yeah, he spoke with Henny Stewart about his forthcoming documentary, The Price of Fame. Check it out.
The Price of Fame is it's my story. It's the story of hope. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of forgiveness. The story of hope is, I came from humble beginnings. My father was a wrestler who I admired and wanted to be just like. I lost him when I was 15 years old. He suffered a heart attack and died. I find myself in a very small town, a little place called Wilcox, Arizona, 3 traffic lights. It's where my grandparents lived. Then I watched my mother sink into despair and alcoholism. But in the midst of that, I stayed true to the things my father taught me. And one of the things he said was, son, you can be whatever you want to be if you're willing to pay the price. If you're willing to work hard, you can do it. And so, like him, he came out of a very poor ethnic neighborhood in Omaha, Nebraska. I came out of Wilcox, Arizona with a college scholarship to play football. Played football, then I went to wrestling and eventually to the WWF and climbed to the top of the ladder in the WWF, and that's all good. But in the course of making that climb, the price of fame, people look at famous people and they go, oh my gosh, you go into a Coliseum and 30,000 people are screaming your name, and man, that's got to be exciting. And I go, yeah, it is. But what you don't see is when I leave that building and I go to that hotel and I'm looking at four walls and a television set. And then I'm doing that night after night after night, sometimes 300 nights a year. That hotel room can become a very lonely place. And so you go to the bar and have a beer and it turns into 2 and 3, and down that slippery slope you go. So for me, it culminated with calling home one day and being confronted by my wife with adultery. And it was like, and I said, I don't want to talk about this on the phone. I'll be on the next plane home. And my wife said, no, you won't, because you don't live here anymore. Click. That's pretty sobering. That's like, oh my gosh, in a fraction of a second, realizing that you have put at risk the most valuable thing in your life. The love and commitment of a devoted wife, not to mention the future, the stability, the peace of mind of your children. And I determined that day I was never going to, I never felt so rotten in my entire life and worthless. Now, I'm at the height of my fame. I got it all, but in reality, I didn't have anything because I had no integrity. I had no character, then I thought about, what would my father have thought? How disappointed he would have been, and I determined that I was going to turn it around. By the grace of God, my wife forgave me and gave me a second chance. I took that chance and ran with it. I can tell you honestly, today, my wife's my best friend. We're closer in every way imaginable, and we went through hell together. And she would tell you, you know what? It was hard for me. It was hard for all of us, but it was a storm worth weathering. So it is a story of hope. It's a story of restoration and redemption. Not only my restoration and redemption with my wife, but the story with me and the relationship with my sons. Having to share with them that because my sons, they'd heard the story. They'd heard me speak about it as I speak in churches. But then when they get married and now they have children of their own, and when I decided to tell this story in film, because I've been telling the story a long time, then those questions come, because now they know how much they love their children and how much they love their wives. Mm-hmm. Dad, how could you do this? Mm-hmm. So the story's very raw and it's very real, but I think that there's something in this for everybody, that there is hope, there is forgiveness, and there's redemption. And you know what? In the midst of your success, even if you blow it, even if you fall on your face, get back up.
Great information,
and keep
Ted.
Going. That's what I had.
Where can we get more information about your film?
Go to thepriceoffame.com. and enter your zip code, and it should tell you what theaters it's playing at. And again, it's Tuesday, November 7th. That's the only play date, and it's a Fathom event. Thepriceoffame.com is where you can find out more information.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Ted, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Ted was very candid in that interview. My goodness. Oh, well, special thanks to Fathom Events and Engage Media Partners for sponsoring this segment.